Good afternoon. My name is Robert Fiore. I am Vice Chair of the Florida Bar's Standing Committee on Professionalism. On behalf of the Florida Supreme Court's Commission on Professionalism and the Florida Bar's Standing Committee on Professionalism, I welcome you to another segment of the historical video series. Today, we're here to interview Herman Russomanno, a distinguished past president of the Florida Bar. The date is April 15th, 2003, and we're here to interview Mr. Russomanno at the conference room in downtown Miami of the Dade County Bar Association, where Herman served as this organization's president from 1993 to 1994. The room is surrounded by portraits of mentors of Mr. Russomanno's who taught him to practice law with dignity. Ladies and gentlemen, Herman Russomanno. Good afternoon, Herman.
Good afternoon, Robert.
Tell us about your professional career, starting with college, and what were your motivations toward law school?
I attended Rutgers University in Newark, New Jersey, and my motivations to law school started when I was 12 years of age. My dad was an attorney, and I remember when I was 12, one day we went to the Superior Court in Essex County, New Jersey. And I remember the majesty of the courtroom, the judges, the judge with the black robe, and seeing a trial. And I always remembered that. Unfortunately, when my dad passed away that year when I was 12, and 2 years later, and as I was in our basement in New Jersey, going through many of his law books, and I saw books such as The Art of Cross-Examination by Francis Wellman, My Day in Court, poems that he used in some of his closing arguments. I read some of those excerpts. And I also saw some letters that were written to my mom when my dad had passed away about some of his clients and friends and others talking about him being a wonderful lawyer, a caring person, but someone who helped people. And I thought from the age of 14, lawyers help people, and that's why I decided I wanted to be a lawyer.
Who are the heroes that have influenced your life?
Well, the ultimate hero is God. If you look at some of the other heroes and heroines, my mother, a woman who went to college in the 1920s in New Jersey, someone fiercely independent, someone who fought her career for women's rights. She was a professor, a social worker, and she taught me a few things. One, she taught me to, of course, look at people for who they are, that nobody is born a bigot, that a person should look at everyone and deal with everyone fairly. She was courageous in those early days, working hard in a world, in a profession dominated by men. There were testimonials in her honor, and she continued on. I sort of became the man of the house at 12 when my dad passed away. I did not have any brothers or sisters, and she was always someone that I really followed and as an example, as someone that led the way. Another heroine in my life has been Sally. My wife, I've known her for 38 years. We've been married now close to 31 years, and she has been someone who always has been there for me. Her radiant smile, her work in the church, her work with children, and just being a person totally behind me has been something that has motivated me throughout my lifetime. As it relates to heroes in the profession, two people that we had the pleasure to work with together, Judge Ray Pearson, Judge Bob Floyd. These were individuals who were truly outstanding lawyers, but they were people that were loved by others in the profession. I've never heard a cross word about either of them. They taught us to practice law with professionalism. They had dignity, and they really made people understand what it meant to be a lawyer and what the respect for that was. This is a noble profession. Another hero in our profession, and someone I met when I was student bar president in law school, was Chesterfield Smith. Chesterfield came to our school, and this was during the time of the Watergate era, and he talked about no one being above the law and how a person has to really be themselves and never be intimidated, no matter who the person may be. And Chesterfield has always stood out to me as someone who has dedicated himself to the profession and to pro bono service. And finally, as it relates to heroes, I clerked for a United States District Judge, Judge Daniel Thomas in Mobile, Alabama. Also Justice Hugh Maddox, but of the Alabama Supreme Court. But Justice Thomas, he was someone that really had confidence and faith in lawyers. And one day, I'll always remember this, in my first month of being his law clerk, lawyers came in on an attorney's fee hearing. And there was significant fees involved. And as he accepted the testimony, I noticed that not one lawyer was sworn in. And I asked him why, and he said, Herman, lawyers are officers of the court. They testify and practice before me as if they're always under oath. And I always remembered that to practice law, you should practice law with your hand held high as if you've been permanently sworn to tell the truth. And that stayed with me. And then the last group of heroes have been some of my clients. Clients that have given me the courage and inspiration to continue to practice law. One example, a young woman by the name of Teresa, who had gone through a windshield in a terrible accident at the age of 18, was in a coma for weeks, could not talk, could not walk. And then after many months of rehabilitation, what gave me the greatest pride and joy was 4 years later to receive an invitation to attend her college graduation at Florida Atlantic University. And by being with her family and friends, I've always remembered that moment, and those have been some of my heroes.
What changes have you seen in the legal profession over the years?
One change, a very positive change, has been diversity in our profession. We've seen in our own state, where if we looked at the turn of the century, in 1900 there were 2 women attorneys. And today we have over 19,000 attorneys, women attorneys. We've seen strides done with minority lawyers as well. And we've seen greater diversity in the profession. And that's a positive thing. We've also seen improvements in technology where we have the ability to better serve our clients.
From the standpoint of the profession, have you, Herman, over the years seen the profession get better or worse?
Well, absolutely, I believe the profession has gotten better from the standpoint of diversity, from the standpoint of making the profession reflect society. And if we look in our profession with our judges and lawyers, we need to have a society to build public trust and confidence that reflects everyone. And that's been a positive end. I believe that the education of lawyers has increased, practicing with professionalism, and the ideals of seeking greater standards of professionalism are positive. On the negative side, we've seen, I believe, some of the loss of pride in our profession, where lawyers, feeling the pressure of being attacked from different sectors, seem to be down and not as proud as they should be. And I'm proud to be a lawyer. I'm proud to be a trial lawyer. And I would like to see a restoration of pride in the profession. Pride, to me, begets professionalism.
Herman, what recommendations can you give to judges, lawyers, and law schools on how to improve the legal profession?
Robert, first and foremost, as to the deans and faculty members of the law schools throughout this country, there's an obligation to teach civility, professionalism, and ethics as part of the law school program. First and foremost, the law schools have the ability to instill the core values in students so as they study the law, they understand, as Justice Cardozo has written in an opinion in 1918 in Re Rouse, that it is a privilege to practice law. However, law is burdened with conditions. And some of the conditions as to our core values, the commitment to do pro bono work, the commitment to, of course, honor, have respect to the tribunal, respect to your clients and to your colleagues, that must be instilled in law school. As you graduate from law school, the many mentoring programs that the Florida Bar has, its Young Lawyers section, other organizations, they must be accepted and followed by lawyers to have a mentor, to have someone that you can confide in, to ask questions about, where you may not ask even in your own firm. That is something that is extremely important. Years ago, when my father was an attorney, lawyers would read at the side or at the feet of other lawyers. Those were the clerkships, the apprenticeships. We need those today in the law. And by having that ability, it helps. And many lawyers go out, they hang up their shingle and start practice as solo practitioners. We need them to be helped and mentored along the way.
Do you believe there should be a mentor program, following along with what you just mentioned, for young lawyers where they can be trained by experienced attorneys after they graduate from law school?
Absolutely. There's an obligation for all of us to give back to the profession. We all learn from each other. I could recall numerous examples of positive learning experiences that I've had throughout my career. And I was fortunate to be with a firm that had such positive mentors, such as Judge Ray Pearson, Judge Bob Floyd, and many others. And by having such a program, lawyers have that ability to grow in the profession, to see the right way to practice law, to understand that civility is not a sign of weakness, but a badge of honor, and that you can be an effective lawyer and be civil. And that's why those programs are essential, and we should have as many of them as possible as we proceed. We do have in our state and throughout the United States the Inns of Court, which is an excellent way of mentoring young lawyers. The Inns of Court provide the opportunity to meet with professionals, judges, and lawyers, and to discuss issues that affect us, whether issues of trial practice, issues of ethics, issues of professionalism.
What is the legal profession doing correctly? You mentioned organizations like the Inns of Court. What are some of the things that are being done currently that are being done correctly in your view?
Well, first and foremost, the legal professions through the state bars do an excellent job of administrating justice. You know, as self-regulators, we have a responsibility. And the Florida Bar, for example, has a responsibility to discipline lawyers who may violate any of the canons of ethics, to scrupulously protect clients where people may be involved in the unauthorized practice of law. We're blessed in our state to have one of the best executive directors in the United States, Jack Harkness, who administers over the 86,000 lawyers in the state of Florida. Another positive factor is the strong CLE programs that exist. The continuing legal education as part of the profession is there. We're trying to today provide as much service through technology, have the ability of lawyers from their desk to be able to participate in CLE through conference, through the internet. The Center for Professionalism, which was started and headed by our Chief Justice, Justice Anstead, is a fabulous way of having people become involved, understanding the ethical issues, traveling throughout the state with programs that the center does to, of course, have lawyers understand the problems that exist in our profession and how do you deal with them ethically. Those are just some of the examples of how the bar in the United States, both the state bars and the American Bar Association, is doing a good job, and again, promoting diversity for women and minorities in the profession.
What areas can be improved upon in the legal profession?
The first area that can be improved upon, Robert, in our legal profession is for lawyers to restore pride in their practice. That we must practice professionalism with pride. Pride begets professionalism. In our country, there have been concentrated attacks on the independence of the American lawyer. And there have been concentrated attacks against trial lawyers. What we must do is understand that these attacks have been going on for centuries, and even though they've accelerated the pace today, that we must be proud of what we do, let people understand that we're proud of what we do, and point out the great examples of how our civil justice system, our criminal justice system has functioned because of lawyers. We are officers of the court. We are part of the third branch of government, and we have an obligation to protect freedoms, to protect democracy, to fight for justice. And lawyers need to understand each and every day that they are part of this struggle, the struggle for justice, and if we can understand that, lock arms and work together, our profession will continue to have the distinction that it has enjoyed over the centuries. If not, the profession of law may change and be nowhere near what we've practiced along the years.
How do you define ethics in the legal profession?
Ethics would be the moral code, the conduct that govern attorneys with their colleagues, with their clients, and with the court. Chief Justice Earl Warren once stated in a speech that the law floats in a sea of ethics. And I think if you look at our cases and how we conduct ourselves, our ethical conduct, the canons that govern how we operate, whether it's in court, in pretrial practice, motion practice, are governed by our rules regulating the Florida bar.
And how would you define professionalism?
Professionalism is a broader scope where ethics is a part of it, civility, preparation, and pro bono service. Preparation, is a key to being well prepared. Civility is something that we all must profess, and we need to understand that we can disagree without being disagreeable. And that is something that we must work hard to establish each and every day.
What are your core beliefs that have helped you throughout your life?
The core beliefs that are important to me is the belief as a lawyer, first and foremost, in honesty. Secondly, that your word is your bond. It is essential in the practice of law that when you indicate something to an individual, you've been honest, you've been forthright, and that your word cannot be questioned. Because we know that a reputation can be lost in a split second. And you could spend a lifetime attempting to recover a reputation. But once tarnished, it's gone. And our reputation is our greatest asset. Preparation is also essential as a lawyer. The great attorney Louis Nizer once said that the facts of a case do not fly in through the window, they must be dragged in by the heel. And I believe that. It's hard work to be an attorney. But preparation is a key. It's a key, it's a service to our clients. It's an obligation that's appreciated by the tribunal. And as an officer of the court, we must follow those practices. And finally, core values is also what your life has been worth. And I define that in the following way. Have you been an attorney who has been a good family person, man or woman? How have you been in your faith? How have you served your clients? How have you served your community? Because when you measure up an individual, when it's all said and done, and I guess that final tribunal, when you're judged in all those facets. How you've conducted yourself as an individual, as a lawyer. Have you been someone who has made a mark and made a lasting impression on your community, your faith, your family, your profession? Have you truly helped people? And those are the core values that have been most important to me.
If you were absolutely guaranteed that your advice would be followed, what advice would you give to those in the legal profession?
Robert, I would tell lawyers that we all are the legal guardians of the legal system. We are the gatekeepers. And for our system of justice to continue in the United States and the state of Florida, lawyers must vigorously protect the independence of the American lawyer. Lawyers must vigorously protect the independence of our judiciary. Lawyers must vigorously protect and fight for our courts to be adequately funded. Many times, attorneys take for granted that other lawyers will do the work, that those lawyers will be in the vineyards, that they will travel to Tallahassee, travel to Washington, D.C., campaign for certain legislators, and deal with issues relating to court funding, and they sit on the sidelines. The time is long past where all lawyers must participate. There must be a call to action where all lawyers understand that the struggle for justice never ends. It never ends. And as we give an analogy of a large boulder being pushed up a hill, if all of us are pushing that boulder, there may be times when that boulder comes backward. But if there are many of us below, we all have the collective strength, arm in arm, to lock shoulders and to push that boulder to the top of the mountain. And that's where the beacon of justice is. And if we are to fight and protect our democracy, those are examples of what lawyers must do. Our judiciary must remain independent. We must have three co-equal branches of government. Justice is under fire in the state of Florida. It's under fire in the United States of America. And lawyers must understand that each and every day they have an obligation to fight for justice, to fight for trial by jury, to fight to keep the courthouses of America open. That is only done when courts are properly funded. The independence of the American lawyer is paramount. If we lose our core values, if we lose the ability to regulate ourselves, and we become subservient to government, democracy, as we've come to believe in America, will not be the same. So the hope is that the lawyers of the 21st century, join arms and march toward freedoms, the freedom of press, the freedom of worship, the freedom of speech, to protect those liberties in this society. We are envied around the world for our democracy, the constitutional principles that have made this country great. And lawyers have been such an important part of that process. I'm so proud to be a lawyer. I've been proud to be president of the Florida Bar, and I would hope all lawyers follow these principles to have a better profession and that we remain a noble profession throughout this century.
Thank you for your time, Herman.
Thank you, Robert.